and I will write this. This is a very good sentence that I'll just add to my notes. Search for a keyword which relates to the topic that I am making notes for. Say for instance, in this one, I'll just try and see if there are any results for justice word itself. This is how the final notes would look like. This is what will help me to generate points for a question on justice. Video, I'll show you how you can make notes for your essay paper using UPSC Path and Tracker Pro. First thing, if you've not referred to the previous video, I would suggest go and have a look at that video because it will tell you how we have defined a syllabus for essay paper. In this video, I will continue that conversation and I will show you how I'm using the Learn to Write section and making notes for my essay syllabus of justice. Next up, I will also add current affairs to it. After that, I will also pick up a completely new question from the theme of justice and I will show you how the notes that I have made will be helpful to me for that new question. Now, something that you should understand before making notes for your essay paper is that it's a little different from GS paper. So you don't have straight up question answers here. You have to write arguments. So you first write arguments in support of the question, then you take the exact opposite stand and you argue against that question. Also, both the times you have to be very convincing. So you need something to substantiate your arguments. Now that could either be an example or a proverb or a story, or you can quote an expert, or it can also be a quotation. Now let me show you how I would make notes for the question that we were discussing in the first video. This is a question. The first thing that you'll have to do is understand the statement and try to brainstorm the points on your own. The question here is, lending hands to someone is better than giving a dole. So here I'll start making my notes. Okay, and you're feeding him for one time, but you teach him fishing and you are feeding him for a lifetime. So I will just write it down as this: feeding for a day versus feeding for a lifetime, and I'll just make notes in the way I remember. Okay, next up I'll go to the Learn to Write section and see what are the points provided over here. Okay, it talks about dignity and self-respect. Again, this is a very good dimension. It talks about how when you go for capacity building, it brings with it a lot of dignity for the other person. So I'll add that to my notes. What will I write for substantiating this? Let me choose a sentence. So here I find a very good statement. It's an example showing how for the manual scavengers, doles helps them come out of poverty, but it does not erase the stigma around the entire thing. So that is a wonderful example that I can use. Next, I'll go to another point, sustainability of solutions. Again, so these are long-term solutions. When you go for capacity building, it's a long-term solution. So I'll just add this point again to my notes. And I will pick up something from here. Okay, there's an example of SHG. This is great. It relates to our GS understanding and it helps us explain the point in the exact manner that it should be explained. We can also use expert over here and we can write about how Muhammad Yunus started the Grameen Bank in Bangladesh. That really helps because that was a wonderful solution that even we have replicated. So this is again a very good point that I can add to my notes. Fostering active citizenship. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Great. So what this fourth point is doing is it is trying to move from individual level to the national level. So it says that when you go for capacity building of somebody, they learn to not just be the receiver in democracy, but also contribute to democracy. And this is what you need to understand. This point, what it is doing is, I'll just write it next to the point so that I remember this when I come back to my notes. Moving from individual level to national level. And this will help me open up my mind and understand how my arguments should move. how they should not just be limited to one aspect. It can go from individual level to national level or vice versa. And I will write this. This is a very good sentence that I'll just add to my notes. I can use this anywhere. Psychological strength. Okay, it helps the individual. So whatever I like from here, I will keep on adding to my notes. This is how I will have a repository. Now, once I'm done with the learn to write section, what I'll do is I'll go for current affairs addition to this. Let me show you how you can use Tracker Pro and make value addition to this. So this is Tracker Pro. This is the home page. I'll go to CA Tracker Pro. Okay, on this page, I see a small icon of search over here, and I would try to search for a keyword which relates to the topic that I am making notes for. Say for instance, in this one, I'll just try and see if there are any results for justice word itself. Okay, there's a good article over here, cost of unconditional cash transfers. Now see how you can use this to make additions to your notes. This talks about how the doors that you provide can be harmful. Now there are key takeaways over here. It's summarizing the article. You can pick up anything from here. Again, this relates to how we were talking about implications at national level. You can write this one. You can pick this one up over here, from here. See, this is such a great line. Rising fiscal burden places a considerable pressure on state finances, and they are a recurring expenditure. So I'll just pick this up from here and I will add this to my notes. And question, there can be no social justice without economic prosperity. It says no social justice without economic prosperity, but economic prosperity without social justice is meaningless. Here, thesis and brainstorming I'll do. The first thing that you have to understand is what are the sides that you will pick up while arguing for this essay. So the first thing that I understand here is that it is talking about economic prosperity and social justice. What the question says is that you will need economic prosperity in order to have social justice. But it says that if you are at this stage 1 but you do not move to the second stage, then it is a sham, it's meaningless. This is what the question is saying. So here the thesis is simple. The first part, you need economic prosperity for social justice, but the antithesis here will not be the exact opposite, rather it will be a continuation. And this you can see from here, the sides to argue. It will show you exactly what the antithesis here should be. And this is why it is important, because antithesis is not always the exact opposite. Next up, what I'll do is I will start brainstorming for the question. And the first thing that comes to my mind is DPSP. How India did not go for implementation of DPSPs, and it did not. The first thing that comes to my mind is about DPSP, how we did not go for making them justiciable because we did not have enough resources. So that is what I will write here. This will remind me how economic prosperity is important for social justice. Next up, whatever I have brainstormed, I will write that down. And next I'll go to the learn to write section and see what are the points provided over here. The first one, it says here, empty stomach cannot hear justice. Oh, okay. Now see, this is why it is such a great point. I'll tell you. First thing, when we think of the statement is that we need economic prosperity in order to go for social justice. But we can also argue in the thesis part itself that how not having economic prosperity or how poverty hinders social justice. And this is what you have to learn from here. Learn to write section, whatever arguments are provided over here, try to understand why are these arguments added here. There has to be some or the other reason. Once you understand that, you will understand how to brainstorm better. And that exercise is what you need for your essay paper. From here, I will also pick up an example of Bengal famine that it has mentioned. And this is such a wonderful line. Without the prosperity to feed its people, state cannot even begin to talk about rights. So this is what I will write. Bengal famine of 43. the statement. So this becomes my argument for thesis part. Next up is human capital as the engine of justice. So here it's talking about Korea. And okay, so what this point is trying to say is that when you have economic prosperity and you go for capacity building, then it helps in social justice. I can add this to my notes and I can say how there's more of social justice in prosperous countries. More social justice in prosperous countries. And I will add the example of Korea. Okay, next up what we have in the arguments is poverty is the biggest polluter of justice. Let me see what I can pick from here. It says that poor are forced to degrade their environment and accept indignities just to survive. See, again, this is such a great sentence for the theme of justice. So I'll just add that to my notes again. And poverty is the polluter. And this is something that I will use to corroborate my argument. This is what I will add to my notes. So now when I look at my notes, I'll understand what was I thinking initially and how I could have generated more points to it. Next I see the plow before the preamble. So it's talking about agriculture. Okay, now what this point is teaching me is that when we are talking about economic prosperity, it is not just wealth and money, but it is sufficiency in general. That is what economic prosperity here stands for. And this is what you need to learn from a statement like this, an argument like this. That when you think of this original essay statement, think of it in broad terms. And once you go through these arguments, you will know how you could have enhanced your understanding of the topic itself. So this is how you should go about making your notes from learn to write section. Once you're done from this, add current affairs to it. Let us go back to Tracker Pro and see what we could have added from here. The home page, let me try and just use the word justice again. Let's see if there's something. Opposition, creamy layer. Okay, government job away past barriers for Adivasi youth. Now this seems like a good question. Here you will have the important parts highlighted. So you can just go about reading the highlighted portion and see what you can pick up from here. Okay, now this is something that is wonderful and I can add to my essay notes. It says for Adivasi youth, government job means being the first person in a family to enter the formal system that makes decisions about community that remains on the margin. Now this is such a wonderful question, wonderful statement that I'll just go back and write in my notes. For Adivasi youth, government job means getting into decision making. For a community that remains on the margin. This is how the final notes would look like, covering the entire theme of justice with the arguments and corroborating evidence using UPSC Path and Tracker Pro. Let us go and look for a new question and see how we can use our notes to answer that question. Let us go to toppers questions from here. This one is the same. Let us pick up the second one. Most valuable of all capital is the one invested in human beings. Okay, now if say I have to brainstorm for this question, these were the notes that I made and this is the new question that I have in exam. How will I try and brainstorm for this? The first thing that I will think of is what are the ways to invest in human beings, and second, how that is the most valuable investment. Now I will remember my notes exactly. I will think of how capacity building of people helps in not creating a condition of dependency. I will also write how it brings about dignity and self-respect, and that this creates confidence in human beings. So it helps not just to the individual but also for the nation. It is helpful. So this again is a point that I can use. I will say how these solutions are sustainable because investment in human beings such as via education and healthcare will bring about long-term solutions. These are sustainable solutions. And I will say how when we invest in human beings, it brings social justice and harmony in the society. So this is how I will use the essay notes for my final exam. So now what you should be doing is I showed how you can go about making notes for the theme of justice using 2 questions from here. These are PYQs. Make notes for the other PYQs from Learn to Write and Tracker Pro. What I'll do is I'll clean up this document a bit, and I'll share this in the YouTube description as well as on the UPSC Path Telegram channel. So you can use this as your base and keep on making value additions to it. That's it about this video. If you have any doubts, put this in the comment section and I will try and answer them in the next video. Thank you. Happy learning.